All right, let's talk about this right here: automotive scope and graphing meter. A scope is a scope, and a graphing meter is tracing. It's not live. So if you understand that, you'll be okay. I have this one, OTC 3840. Here it is. I've been using it. We got our menu. Of course, you got component tests. I do a lot of diesel, so most of that stuff, doesn't really, apply to me. We got different things we can do, but for the most part, it just doesn't really work. I do use the scope a lot. I use the scope a lot when I'm working on CAN. On J1939 CAN, I can trace the low CAN, the high CAN, and that's very important when you're working on the CAN circuit. We have, you have the original equipment, and then they have what's called the customer side. And well, these customers, they add things to their trucks, different controls for different reasons, for different setups, and sometimes it causes interference. You can sometimes catch it by measuring the resistance at the C and D. And, if you have your 60 ohms, give or take, you can go from there. But when you have a scope, it's pretty nifty. You can see the actual CAN, high CAN, low CAN, and you can more or less zero in on which one's the one giving you the trouble. Graphing meter, like I said, it's a graphing meter, and you have a whole bunch of things: volts, ohms, RPMs, frequency I use a lot, duty cycle I use, pulse width I use, dwell not so much, ignition. On the Caterpillars I do, the ones with the regen system. Sometimes I do use it just to find out if the tip of the head or the tip of the plug is gone. It does help a little bit. That's about it. Other than that, I really don't use it. And then this guy right here, I use this a lot. Amps. And I think I showed you one of my other videos. I got the high clamp, the high amp, 300 amps, and then I got the low amp, which is 60 amps. And that helps a lot with different types of things you're trying to figure out. When you're dealing with original equipment, they have the troubleshoot tree or different ways of doing things that they want you to do, and it's basically it's like a diagnostic tree, which, it sends you down a certain way. And if you can't figure it out, you got to call in for service, technical service, and they'll help you. But sometimes, unfortunately for me, we're running around at night. Ain't nobody to call, or very few places you can call for help. So a lot of times, if you know how to use some of these functions, you can figure it out. You can figure out what's going on. If you got a bad harness, if you got a bad ECM, if you got a bad controller, a bad voltage supply, if you voltage dropping, if you're shorting to ground, it's and the more you use this kind of stuff, it seems like the quicker your diagnosis become, and the more solid your diagnosis become, because when you call it, it is going to be that. It's not going to be that you call for a sensor and it still messes up, and then you call for a harness and it still messes up, and then you call for an ECM and it still messes up, only to come to find out that you had dirty pins or, corrosion somewhere along the run, and you failed to detect the voltage drop. That's why I went to a scope to better improve my diagnostics ability. And not only that, I'll say it again, customers, pay attention to the mechanics. If you come out with a test light and laptop and that's it, they see that. But if you come out with a multimeter, and you come out with a scope, and then you come out with a some stuff they've never seen before, and they see, they have a lot of confidence in you because they see that you're using multiple devices to try to get the same confirmation on their problem. You know, a scope, a meter, a test light, a pyro probe, a homemade tool. You know, it's just, they pay attention. And sometimes it's easier to make a lifetime customer when you go the extra mile than, you know, when you don't. Anyway, this is my scope, and it's a OTC 3840. Guys, if you plan on being in the industry, automotive, truck, heavy equipment, get a scope. Even if you get a cheap U-scope from ASC Wave, just get a scope, start learning how to use it, start learning how to apply it in your daily diagnosis, and I'll guarantee you, you will become a better technician.